But if we recognize that many of those blocks are not necessarily from our own physical mind, they're energetic imprints that may be coming from our ancestors, that may be coming from subconscious patterns that we learned as children, then we recognize that through Kundalini Yoga and through certain meditations, we can actually clear them without even knowing what they are.
Namaste. You're listening to the Savannah Podcast. Join us on an exploration of Eastern spirituality, yoga philosophy, and conscious living for the new age. This podcast is a production of SavannahSpirit.com, the best place to shop for unique clothing, spiritual handcrafted jewelry, healing gemstones, and fair trade gifts from the Far East. Now, here's your host, Brett Larkin.
Hello, Savannah family. Thank you for listening, for being here, and most of all, for your ratings and reviews on iTunes. I know I say it every week, but your ratings and reviews here on iTunes really make a difference. They really help get the show in front of more people, and it means so much to me. So take a minute to do that this week if you haven't already. And our topic for this week is healing your subconscious. We are talking to Karena Virginia. She's a motivational speaker, energy healer, Kundalini yogi, mentor, and TV personality. She's written several books, including the Essential Kundalini Yoga, released by Sounds True. She's a member of Oprah Winfrey's Belief Team, and she's been featured in Veria Living TV, Bravo TV, and so many other places. Today, she poses us with a really interesting question, which is, what if working within the confines of your mind is not enough for personal transformation? According to her, we can't elevate our mindset until we heal our energy field first. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. For her, this understanding of the energy field, and she's going to walk us through the 5 layers that exist within your auric field, was really the missing link in terms of her own healing. So she's going to walk us through each of these frequencies, energy frequencies. She's going to explain how they relate to other modalities you may have heard of, like acupuncture, tapping, things like epigenetics, shamanism, healing, and prayer. So if you're someone who's interested in energy medicine, interested in the 8th chakra, or the idea of an auric field, you have got to keep listening. Before we dive into the interview, I just wanted to feature a beautiful product on SavannahSpirit.com. Again, Savannah Spirit is what makes the show possible, so I encourage you to order something on SavannahSpirit.com. They have so many beautiful things to enhance your yoga and meditation practice: clothing, jewelry, stones, and crystals. And what I'm highlighting today is their Chakra Mini Gemstone Bracelet Set. This is a beautiful bracelet set. It's 7 bracelets, 1 for each chakra. So there's a red jasper bracelet for the root chakra, carnelian for the sacral chakra, all the way up to amethyst for the 3rd eye chakra, and snow quartz for the crown chakra. So I encourage you to check that out, and you can use the code podcast30 for 30% off this item or anything at SavannahSpirit.com. Okay, thank you, Savannah Spirit, and now let's dive into this week's episode. Karena, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I was just telling you before I hit record that I love Kundalini Yoga, and you are a Kundalini Yoga teacher, but you're also doing some really interesting things combining Kundalini Yoga with mindset and the law of attraction, which is what we're going to get into today. Can you tell the listeners, most of them probably know, but can you define for them what is Kundalini Yoga, just so they have something in their mind's eye?
Yes. Well, I was just teaching a class this morning, and oftentimes people will come into a workshop thinking that they're in Hatha yoga because there's, Anya Sora, there's Jivamukti, there's, Iyengar. So they hear Kundalini, they're like, all right, just a different style of stretching, right? Or a different style of sun salutations, or, a different form of Sanskrit terminology, holding postures, and it's not at all.
And then they're in for a huge surprise when they end up in your class.
Exactly. And I've definitely had people roll up their mats and they bring their blocks and their straps and everything. And then I might look and say, are you okay? And, and they'll just be like, I totally forgot that I had a dentist appointment. I'm so used to that. And when they bring their props, I always know, okay, because Kundalini Yoga is more of a science and a technology. While it is a yoga, because yoga means to yoke mind, body, spirit, breath it means to integrate all aspects of the self. But many people think of yoga as a series of exercises where we might meditate and where we might utilize breathing. Kundalini Yoga emphasizes a lot of mantra, a lot of chanting. Not that mantra and chanting aren't used in Hatha Yoga as well, but we're working with a very specific sacred geometry and energy that will move blocks at a very accelerated rate. So sometimes you might be doing a rhythmic motion with an inhale and exhale, inhale, exhale for 3 minutes straight while twisting your spine. Other times you might be chanting for 11 minutes, learning a mantra, and we're literally working the electricity around us and within us.
So often in Kundalini Yoga class, they talk about the electromagnetic field, right? And maybe you can explain for listeners, what is that? What are they talking about?
Yeah, well, the electromagnetic field is the aura or the biofield, also in Kundalini Yoga known as the 8th chakra. And it's the field that lives around us. We don't see it necessarily. Some people see auras, but the majority of people don't see the electromagnetic field. But it is just as real as our physical body. And in that field, we hold many imprints. And from the work that I've been studying, which is based more on basically alternative medicine by a man called Dr. Klinghardt, who some people have heard of. He's quite a genius, and he has nothing to do with Kundalini Yoga, but I started reading a lot about him and integrating his work with my work with Kundalini Yoga to bring about the most amazing results with clients, which is these 5 layers of healing that he actually discovered from an ancient yogi that was passed down from the Himalayas hundreds of years ago, which is where Kundalini Yoga is from as well. But the way that he brings it in play is through medicine. And he talks about even healing Lyme, or a lot of his work is with Lyme, healing chronic illness by healing the 5 layers around, well, actually most are around the body, but one is the body. And in those fields are energy frequencies. And so the further you are away from the body, the closer you are to the divine. And that one field close to the divine is that place that's only between you and the divine, that one field. And then you move in and there are more fields before you hit the physical body. So the physical body is that tangible part of us, obviously. But the layer right outside of the physical body is the place where acupuncture works. So it's the energetic field that many people understand nowadays through a lot of these more alternative modalities. But then when you move beyond that field, there's a field that holds imprints from our childhood energetically, especially wounds. And then when we move beyond that, and in that field, there's a lot of work with working on childhood wounds. And then you move to the field next to that one before you get to that field that connects you to the divine. And in that field, this is what's really fascinating, is a blueprint of energy from our ancestors. And it can be unknown. It can be absolutely not even subconscious. It doesn't even hold the subconscious imprint. It's an energetic imprint. So even if someone is adopted and they know nothing about their great-great-grandparents, they can hold something from their great-great-grandparents. And I started studying a lot about the science around this through other modalities because I'm so fascinated with it. And when I work with people who have done everything and tried everything and are working so hard on getting free of their blocks or even their physical pain or their illnesses, et cetera, I'm just always so fascinated with how much this integration, this combination can really bring about miracles. Really, I don't say it lightly that it's miracles because I've seen unbelievable things happen.
This is exciting. I'm going to slow you down for a second because I want to make sure we and I am following you because this is super, super interesting. So what you're talking about here is 5 energetic fields that are outside the physical body. So this is completely different from the koshas or the sariras or anything like that we may be familiar with from yoga or tantric texts before.
Yes.
Okay. So this is different. And are they all part of the 8th chakra or the electromagnetic field of Kundalini Yoga? Or are they like what's before the electromagnetic field? Do you know what I'm saying?
So they're all part of the electromagnetic field, but these 5 layers are not necessarily part of Kundalini Yoga. So there are 5 layers that are also part of the electromagnetic field. In Kundalini Yoga, we might not talk about some of these things that I'm talking about based on Klinghardt's study. So in Kundalini Yoga, In Kundalini Yoga, you have that one electromagnetic field, that one, auric field. And in these 5 layers of healing, there's integrating some of these philosophies that Dr. Klinghardt studied long and hard.
Beautiful. So, okay. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. Because I think if someone's practicing Kundalini Yoga and they say to their teacher afterwards, well, what about the 5 layers of healing? The Kundalini teacher is going to go, what are you talking about? So we're talking about 2 different things here. But really our intention for this entire call is to get people from A to B in life. And right now people are really going through hard times. And the energy that's coming through from whether we want to call it the divine feminine, we want to call it the angels, the heavens, God, the universe, is working through us really quickly and bringing up a lot of things that are surfacing. So a lot of people are struggling. But when you move past those things, the incredible miracles are there, and they truly are accessible and available to everybody. But we have to get past those blocks. And sometimes we sabotage ourselves, or sometimes we're just so afraid to break free of that glass ceiling, and we hold ourselves in that holding pattern because we're petrified to move past the blocks. But if we recognize that many of those blocks are not necessarily from our own physical mind, they're energetic imprints that may be coming from our ancestors, that may be coming from subconscious patterns that we learned as children, then we recognize that through Kundalini Yoga and through certain meditations, we can actually clear them without even knowing what they are.
Well, that sounds pretty cool.
Say, yeah. We don't need to know it's my great-great-grandfather's, issue with whatever. We just clear them energetically by recognizing that these fields live. So they did a study on mice, which is fascinating. They took mice and they exposed mice to cherry blossoms. And the mice were like, woo, yay, love this. And then they shocked the mice. And then they took the offspring of the mice and they did nothing. But then the offspring of the offspring, they took to the cherry blossoms. And those mice wanted nothing to do with the cherry blossoms. So that really tests the science of this. So it's 3 generations, right? But the second generation there didn't even know anything about the cherry blossom. So it's not like it was conditioning. It's an energetic thing.
So the mice were avoiding the cherry blossoms because they knew it was like a negative association. Is that right?
There's a negative association, but they don't know what it is, right? Because they weren't the one shocked.
Right.
It was the generation not above them, but above them.
So these 5 layers of healing that need to take place, you talked about them a little bit. Let's go through them one by one, just because I want to make sure listeners really understand this, which is that you want to share with us, which is so interesting. So that first layer you said is sort of like the acupuncture layer, right? Or the layer just outside our body. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the second layer, you talked about a place where sort of childhood wounds, childhood trauma stores and resides. So I'm kind of visualizing that 2-3 inches off my body or off my skin, just because I think it'll be helpful if people can visualize what you're talking about. I'm sure it's not exact, but that's kind of what I'm visualizing. Am I on the right track?
Yes, and you can also think of in that second layer, there's meridians that are not necessarily, meridian points that are not necessarily physical, that they're energetic meridian points. And it's where there's also part of the nervous system that exists beyond the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, which is the physical body, right? There's the energy of the nervous system. So if there's a lot of stress and the sympathetic nervous system is in overdrive, we actually want to balance that in the field around the body, not just the physical body. So that's, again, the second layer.
Very cool. Okay. And then the third layer you mentioned is this ancestral energy, right? So things that we might need not even know, as you were saying with the mice, have happened or not happened, but is there.
Yeah.
And then what are the 4th and 5th layers?
Okay, so the 4th layer is where we have a very strong intuition. It's where sound can help us heal. Okay, so it's where a lot of healing can happen from a shaman, healing can happen from family constellations, healing can happen from sound therapy, many of the alternative things that we do. In the 5th layer, there's self-healing, and that's where prayer works. The 5th layer is the field that is between us and the divine only. And that's where the power of prayer and the power of miracles happens. So it's a super high consciousness. It's spirit, right? It's where spirituality operates.
Beautiful. And now I'm visualizing that 8th chakra, or the aura, the electromagnetic field. Is that the same? Like, is that then bumping up against, is that the same as the 5th layer?
It's the same as, it's the 5th layer coming all the way into the skin. That entire electromagnetic field starts at the area where, so the electromagnetic field can expand 10 feet on all sides. It can actually go 10 feet into the earth as well. So imagine in that field, there are those 5 layers.
Perfect. That's
imagine
exactly.
2 feet of each layers, kind of.
Yeah, if we want to measure it. No, we don't have to measure it. I'm just trying to get a visual. Yeah, so because I've heard that in Kundalini Yoga too, that, that auric field is 10 feet on every side. And I think I've never heard it broken down like you're sharing today, which is so cool that these 5 energy fields within that. So I guess what we're coming back to now is, I'm a Kundalini Yoga practitioner. Say someone listening is a Kundalini Yoga practitioner, and they're doing chanting, and they're doing some of the traditional Kundalini practices, spinal flex, breath of fire, all of those types of practices. How does awareness of these 5 layers of healing that you talked about, how are you bringing that into the Kundalini practice as taught by Yogi Bhajan?
How do I bring it in, you mean?
Yeah, or how does one? But it sounds like this is like the fusion that you are sharing, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, this is really the work that I've been practicing. This is the work that I've been doing for about 4 years now. I've been practicing and teaching Kundalini Yoga for 20 years. And I started teaching and practicing yoga when I was in college, when I was 18. So I've been on this journey for over 25 years altogether. This is where I feel like there's a real cutting edge of information right now. And then I'm going to answer your question, because we are living in this world of cell phones and Wi-Fi and a lot of things that are disrupting this field, right? So this is essential that we recognize a lot of these environmental toxins that are of, EMF, that are in this, that we do not allow them to penetrate this field. So that being said, I'm going to answer your question. I don't need to tell everybody about these 5 layers or 5 fields when they're taking a Kundalini Yoga class. I'm sharing this with you to give you an idea of how I work. And I also am a healer. So if I'm teaching, I can often see in the energy field where there is something that is off. And so I may give somebody a meditation based on that while they don't even know what it is, right? Nobody needs to know what they're doing, so if you're doing this on your own, right, and you're recognizing this and you're practicing Kundalini on your own, what do? You just trust. And you just know that the Kundalini Yoga, when you set your intention and when you do the work, is going to work for you. And it's going to be healing these fields. But you don't need to know exactly what's happening. You just want to constantly set the intention to expand your auric field and then let that magnificence shine all the way out into, in towards the heavens. So after the electromagnetic field, those 10 feet, just imagine another field of just bliss that connects us up all the way to everything and everyone.
I'm picturing like when you do a Kundalini Kriya, right? You're often coming up against resistance, right? Or like your own negative mind chatter or blocks to the exercise. At least for me, that's been a big part of my experience with the practice, right? Is sort of overcoming limiting self-beliefs or overcoming negative mind chatter, right? That's telling you that you want to stop doing whatever the repetitive movement or breath is. How does that tie into everything you're talking about?
Okay, good question. And I'll integrate this with your first question about it too. So if you're doing spinal flexes, you're moving spinal fluid up the spine to balance neurotransmitters in the brain. So right there, you have an increase of dopamine and serotonin. So there's assistance there. You are also having your eyes closed, they're rolled up and inward, you're focused at your third eye point. And in that mechanism, the optic nerve is being activated, and that will automatically quiet the mind. So there we have work on the mind. So beyond that, when we start to do something like breath of fire, we have work taking place in clearing and healing through breath, right? and purifying the blood through breath. Again, that's more of a physical body thing. When we start to do things like maybe we're flapping our arms with the intention of clearing anything and something of anything in our field without knowing what it is, what we're literally doing is just visualizing light in that field and letting the light move beyond any blocks that are actually there of density in that electromagnetic field. Then when we're chanting and we're practicing our mantra, we're working in even the higher fields that are not even working on the mind. They're not even working on, I mean, they can to a certain degree because you are chanting and you are moving your tongue and you are activating physical meridian points in the mouth and the tongue, which will also send messages to the hypothalamus, which will balance the brain. But a lot of the chanting is working on really setting intentions and sending prayer, which goes all the way out until into that fifth layer. So this is where I want to answer your question about limiting beliefs and blocks. One of the biggest and most frustrating issues with changing our mind and shifting out of our limiting beliefs is that we think they are only in the mind. And this is where this work is so magical, because many people have worked their mind for years and have done everything, read every book, been in therapy, done, all these things, but still have these limiting beliefs that keep coming up. So that's when we utilize the energetic field around the body to help us change the limiting beliefs and the sabotaging beliefs of the mind. And there's certain things in Kundalini Yoga that will work on that field, not necessarily on the mind. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I think that's really fascinating because we can all, say affirmations or, try to change those thoughts in our head, whether it's through talk therapy or something else. But it sounds like you're saying what we really need to transform in tandem with all of that is our electromagnetic field, correct?
Absolutely. And, there's great things like emotional freedom technique, tapping, things like that. And they work, they're amazing. And you're working there in that first into second layer with the tapping. And I love tapping. I mean, I do tapping all the time, just, randomly throughout the day. And with tapping, I think it's the same idea that you can't just necessarily change your mind without, really kind of stimulating meridian points and having a rhythm, et cetera, of working these. I'm not that familiar with tapping. I'm not an expert in tapping, but it's the same idea. Now, affirmations are amazing. They are wonderful. And I'm a big, big fan of affirmations. But when affirmations become frustrating and when we start to say things that we don't honestly believe in, we start to get very resentful. We can even feel angry. And the biggest thing is that we start to feel very shameful and we feel like we are failures. And we recognize that there's all these books out there that talk about how the affirmations can change your life and thinking positive thoughts can change your life, but we're not there yet. And why doesn't it work for us, right? And I've seen this so many times with people. I had my own experience and I can share that with you maybe on in our next session, if you'd like, about how I realized that it was way bigger than my mind. And it was something really difficult that I went through in order to get there, which was, now in hindsight, a way that, a catalyst for me to be able to help other people with these things. Because yes, all those things are wonderful, but if we aren't clearing the epigenetics, the ancestral patterns, if we aren't clearing the wounds of our childhood that we don't even understand that keep creeping in, right? If we're saying, I am beautiful, I am enough, but we don't remember that when we were 3, a neighbor said, you will never be pretty, you are so ugly, and you are so stupid, and you'll always be stupid, and we don't remember that, then we're saying, I am beautiful, I am enough, but we don't really believe it because we haven't cleared that from our energy field. There's samskaras, right? So these samskaras don't only live in the mind.
Well, I'm so glad you said that word samskara, because I was just about to ask you, what's the difference, or is there a difference between what you're talking about and your subconscious patterning or samskaras? And it sounds like they're the same, and it's just what you just said. It's like the samskaras aren't just in your mind, they're in your electromagnetic field as well.
Exactly. And what happens is our heart closes off because our samskaras are blocked in that unfinished energy pattern from the past, or even, past meaning our ancestors as well, which is not even in our physical body.
Amazing. We are going to go deeper into all of this and also hear Karena's personal story in Thursday's episode. So hopefully we will catch you there. For now, let me know. What did you think of this episode so far? Is it kind of blowing your mind? I know it is for me. You can let us know in our private Facebook group. That's savannahspirit.com/group. Take some time today to meditate, do yoga, and make sure to tune in to Thursday's episode where we continue this conversation. I'm sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Namaste.
You've been listening to the Savannah Podcast. To find out more about Savannah, go to savannahspirit.com or follow Savannah on Facebook at facebook.com/SavannahSpirit. For daily inspiration, check out our blog at savannaeast.com. Be sure to join us next week for a new episode, and thank you for listening to the Savannah Podcast.